Going to gather around. We're doing gathers. I have paper, scissors. When you cut out your pattern today, you're going to cut around the notches. Don't cut in toward your pattern, but cut out. Because you want them, like you don't want them cut in toward your seam. You want them cut on the outside of your seam. So you're going to cut around your little notches. And if y'all want to grab a piece of paper and you can start cutting them out, but just remember, use paper, scissors on the paper, because if you use your good dressmaker shears, it makes them dull. And then your little scraps of fabric, put them in the recycle. We have paper recycle in here. And if you'll notice, we're going to be placing part of your pattern on the fold, so that means that part of your fabric is going to be folded. We're going to match up notches. Notches always match another notch. They always have a partner. And I know there's a recycle box right here, so I'll toss it in the recycle box. Okay, and I'm going to look. I've been cutting from, let's see. I've been cutting from this side, so we're going to cut over here to kind of keep it all going the same direction. This beige or white edge, that's my selvage, and we're going to cut parallel to the selvage. So I notice these flowers are going in a line, so I'm going to line up my little pattern piece along with those flowers. So pinning my pattern to the paper. And I'll go ahead and cut this one out real quick. It'll make it easier to fold the other one. Don't cut out like out in the middle. It wastes a lot of fabric that way. Just find an edge where people have started cutting. And if the fabric has lines, some sort of lines, like I said, I could tell the flowers were going in a line, or it's got checks, try to line up against that, because then you'll be in grain with the fabric. Your the grain that runs parallel to your selvage is the lengthwise grain, and if it's perpendicular, that's your crosswise grain. If it's at a 45-degree angle, that's cutting it on the bias. Cutting it on the bias makes it stretch. This is cut on the bias, it's stretchier. So now pattern piece A, I need it placed on the fold, so you can look and see how much do I need to fold that fat. I'm going to fold it to about right there. So we'll fold it over. And we're going to place the pattern on the fold, and it says place on fold. Last block I had somebody, they folded this edge and they didn't understand why it didn't look right, because they folded it on the edge that wasn't the place on fold. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. And you're only going to cut on 3 sides. That place on fold, that becomes like a center front or a center back. It's the center of your pattern piece. And once again, I'm cutting around the notches. And these little extra snips of fabric, I'm just going to cut them out and put them in the trash. They're too small for anything. And I'm going to fold up the fabric real quick, just get it out of the way. And here's my direction sheet. So I'm going to come over here and thread my machine, and I know I've got the bobbin case already. Everything's set up. Turn my power on. And I have 2 different color threads today. I've got pink on top, and I'm going to put a black bobbin on the bottom. If your threads are the same color, maybe see if you can borrow your neighbor's bobbin, like so you have 2 different color threads. It'll kind of make it easier to see what you're doing today if you have 2 different colored threads. And I've got my bobbin case all ready to go. Clicks in there, turn your hand wheel towards you. And we're going to put the stitch length, it's those bottom two buttons here. You're going to put your stitch length on 5. That's the longest stitch your machine will make, and that is a basting stitch. Take all your pins out of your pattern. So there is pattern piece B. Pattern piece A is going to be twice as long as pattern piece B. So what we're going to say is your gathering is 2 to 1 because it's twice as long. And maybe making curtains, a little skirt or something. And we even have, like, it looks like that's the center of our fabric. So I'm going to put well, first I'm going to sew it. I'm going to sew, if you look here, you're sewing 2 lines. You're not going to back stitch. One is 5/8 of an inch and one is 1/4 of an inch to the edge of your presser foot. But I'll do the 5/8 of an inch line first. And I'm not going to back stitch, start at the very edge, but still make sure you're catching the fabric. So just sew 5/8 of an inch. And it's sewing a basting, it's a big stitch. Sew to the very end, stop. Make sure your threads are nice and long because that's going to be important. So now I've got the 5/8 of an inch and I want the other one closer to the edge of the fabric. So we'll go 1/4 of an inch and you're actually putting your presser foot in the middle of your 5/8 of an inch stitch and the edge of your fabric. And I also have, I'm sewing on the wrong side of the fabric. It doesn't matter if you sew on the wrong or the right side, as long as the same color threads are on the same side. So do it the same way you did it the first time. And sew off, stop, leave your threads long. And then you're going to want to find the center. And on the wrong side, put a pin in the center. And I want a center for pattern piece B. I want the center on the wrong side. So if you have right or wrong side, you're going to have to match up. Put the right sides together and put the center pins together. And you want your fabric edges to touch, and then I'm going to match up my notches in the edge of my fabric. Notches are very important on like blouses, or because you want, if you're doing sleeves, you want to match up notches. If you're doing pockets on pants, you want to be careful to cut your notches. Okay, I'm going to pull the pink threads since they're on the top of my wrong side, and I'll just use a pin to get them apart. And I don't want the black threads because that was my bobbin. And I'm going to pull the pink until it's the same size as pattern piece B, the smaller piece. And you can pull from each side. That's pretty close. Let me go ahead and pull the other side, get my pink ones on the other side. And you pull both threads at one time so that your gathering is even. And then you go and you kind of even out your gathering. And I need to get but don't trim these threads till you're all done and finished, because you may have to go back and kind of adjust things. Okay. Now I'm going to kind of hold this down flat, and just with my nails, I'm going to even it out. If you don't have nails, you can even out with the pins. Try to get your little gathers to look even. And go ahead and pin that in place, and you're pinning on the side that's gathered and the side that you're going to sew. Pull it just a tad more. And then I'll take a pin and I'll even out my gathers.